Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Association Transformation. We're glad to have you. This is our not so new, I think we're, almost a year into this thing. And we've gone even more global than I think we ever imagined. But welcome to our conversation about the impact and evolution of nonprofit organizations. I'll say associations have gone through quite a bit in the last year, and we're excited to be a part of those discussions, helping identify innovations and challenges and solutions around the world. We're seeking a diversity of thought and excited to have guests from everywhere, all different shapes and sizes, all different types of organizations to find new examples of mission-driven innovation and action. And with that commitment comes our collaboration and my co-host, Consort Strategies Managing Director, Andrew Chamberlain. I'm Elisa Pratt from Brewer Pratt Solutions. We've combined our superpowers to bring you this important conversation, and we will try to limit our personal bickering this episode to allow for the guests to come through. And Andrew, I hope you'll join me in that commitment to to peace and unity as we discuss these important topics.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not after the way you've been giving me so much grief as we've been preparing for today's session.
What?
No, of course. How are you, by the way? You okay?
I'm well. I'm very well. Thank you.
Having been working down in sunny Florida.
Oh my gosh.
You're looking a bit tanned after your week at Walt Disney World. So fair play to you. Yeah, I think
I go where the clients need me. I'm like, I put on the cape. I put on my cape and I go where the need is, Andrew. I don't discriminate. If you have a tropical board retreat, I'll be there if you need me. That's it.
Your marketing mantra. If you have a tropical board retreat, I'm your person. I'm your woman. I'll do it. Yeah. Well, okay. So this week, we're talking about social purpose, social justice, and specifically we're talking about climate change, and we're talking about social injustice, and we're talking about sustainable development, and we're talking about we're starting a conversation. We're not going to cover all those topics in detail, but we are starting a conversation because, as you know, the Institute of Association Leadership has launched its social purpose initiative, Ignite. It's called Ignite because the Institute is wanting to start a social justice fire. It recognizes the opportunities that are afforded to associations and the influence that membership bodies have in equipping society with knowledge and skills and expertise and the connectivity it needs for us to be able to tackle all of the issues in one level or another that are encompassed within the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'm very excited about this prospect because I think it's an area that dare I say, most membership bodies really haven't got to grips with yet. The role that they can play in addressing sustainable development and tackling social justice. So I'm hugely excited and encouraged that the IAL has taken the lead in this, and I'm even more excited. And you're right, we're super global these days. I'm so excited.
Is that a thing? Super global?
It is for me. It is for me. Not for you when you're always in, California or Florida or whatever else, but it is for me. Joining us this week, I'm delighted that Mr. Jeffers Miruka is joining us.
Yay.
All the way from. Are you in Nairobi, Jeffers?
Yes, I am in Nairobi.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Jeffers is the co-founder and the president of the African Society of Association Executives. And he's also the director of communications. Get this, Lise. Get this.
He's the busiest guest we've ever had.
It goes on forever. Honestly, the director of communications at the Toronto-based International Association of Agricultural Economists. He's chief executive of the Nairobi-based African Association of Agricultural Economists. He's the secretary and board member of the Association for Kenya Business Events, and he's a research committee member with the ASAE. I don't know how you have time to do anything.
He only has 18 more minutes, so stop talking, Andrew. Let's hear from Jeffers. Jeez,
it's a 30-minute podcast. I'm spending 25 just introducing Jeffers. Jeffers. How are you, sir? How are you? Apart from jet lagged and exhausted by the sound of it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you so much, Elisa, for that's a ton of introduction. I think I should record that and I use it to introduce myself.
My God. My God. No, do you know, you should just take me with you to introduce you to audiences.
He can be your hype man. Andrew can just be your hype man around the world.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for welcoming me. And it really gives me great pleasure to join you. You know, I've been in associations for the last 14 years, and it has given me really pleasure and excitement to work in non-profit organizations, especially in professional associations around in Africa. And now I'm also getting into North America. It's quite fantastic. It's quite exciting. So that is all that I can say for now. And I'm here and ready to have a chat with you.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I think my first introduction to you was at the end of the summer of last year when you hosted the African Society of Association Executives annual conference virtually. And it was a real pleasure to not only see you pivot that event to a valuable online experience, but I think really increase your reach. You know, you were able to reach your association leaders throughout the continent and obviously around the world. It was a really impressive event. And you can see all of those associations hungry for solutions. You know, everyone is struggling. And I wonder, given the social responsibility and social purpose initiative, is it hard to get associations to think about things like sustainability and climate and poverty when they're trying to survive in general?
Up till COVID, it was a bit challenging, but now I think it has sunk into all association executives, especially here in Africa, that sustainability is the key thing to ensuring any success of any association. And sometimes when I speak with my people here in Africa, and I want to specifically talk about Africa, because we are literally, the association industry is quite new in Africa. Not that it has never been there. It has always been there, but it was very informal, as in anybody working in an association was like anybody. Probably you come from university, you've done law, you've done education, you've done engineering, and then you realize you need a job. So the first job which comes into you is association management. And then you start juggling, wondering, what do I need to do? So there used to be a lot of confusion, and there's still more confusion because we're still trying to reach all the parts of Africa, all the 54 countries in Africa, with numerous associations. And for our research, which we did in 2019, Africa has more than, listen to this, more than 400,000 registered associations. The only—
What? Stop the presses. What?
Yes.
400,000.
That is amazing.
So
that is amazing.
You can imagine if we can actually attract 10%, which is 40,000, which is substantial.
Yeah.
And still narrow down to 10% of 40,000, which is 4,000, which is still substantial. You can only imagine the impact we can have and how much sustainable these associations can be and how much they can actually be able to undertake their mission and also carry on with the objectives. So it's an exciting journey that we've embarked in, and I'm happy that we are having a lot of people coming in to support us. And that has been realized through the collaboration we now have with the global-based organizations like the American Society of Association Executives is supporting us a lot. We are working with the European Association, we're working with the Australasian Association. We're all in this together because what we go through here in Africa, associations in the US, in Europe are also going through it, and it's only through collaboration and working together that we can actually make that small difference. We don't want to be seen to make huge differences. We just want to make little differences, which we truly believe will be more impactful, because you have to start from somewhere as you grow. And we truly believe that after us, the people who are coming after us will see what we've done, will pick it from there, and will actually carry on trying to make it better than probably they have found it.
And I think, oh, sorry, go on, Lisa.
No,
go on.
please.
I was just going to pick up on a point there. You know, I think one of the, one of the challenges we have with the social responsibility agenda, the approach to it is, I think sometimes it feels almost insurmountable, because we're not just talking about things. We talk about climate change as some kind of catch-all, but actually, we're talking about things like gender equality, health and well-being, access to clean water and sanitation. It's so much broader than I think we initially sort of we initially think. And then it feels like, for some organizations, it feels like it's tackling these issues is almost inaccessible. It's almost beyond the scope of their capabilities. So it's encouraging to hear what you're saying there in terms of, actually, let's focus on what we can do rather than worrying about or being deterred by what we can't achieve. And certainly that's one thing I want to do, because I don't know if you know, Elise, but Jeff is a member of the IAL's Ignite policy think tank, which is all based around finding ways in which we can influence and we can influence government, but we can influence policymakers, and we can promote the value and impact that associations can have in their sort of societal role in addressing sustainable development. And I wonder, Jeff, as if you're, I'm really curious when you said that prior to COVID, it was more of a challenge to get associations engaged in this debate. Why, because of COVID, has it become easier?
Thank you for that question. That's a really wonderful question. And, COVID has basically changed our life. People say it's a new normal, but for me, I think I want to call it a new better. Because if you continue talking about a new normal, is like, yes, you could want to go back to the old normal. So we are now new post-COVID, but I like calling it the new better because this has really made us change a lot in the way we think, in the way we do things. Associations before Corona, before COVID, we used to have a lot of activities going on around our area. So, we used to have conferences, events, we used to have workshops, we used to have trainings. These were in-person meetings, and really this could actually help associations break even in terms of generating some income for their operations and also for other activities, for other operations, for other programs, and also for advancing their products. But now that this actually almost is like died down, at least temporarily for the time being, we went back to the drawing board and started thinking, how do we become more relevant? How do we continue to be sustainable? And how do we continue to carry on with our activities and programs without really shutting down the organizations or without having a negative impact to what is happening within our members? So we started really thinking out of the box, and people now realized that sustainability is actually the key. So we normally have discussions on what associations are currently doing to remain afloat, because we don't have those income generating activities which we were doing before the COVID. Now we have this new better where you have to be sustainable. You have to think outside the box. When this is all done and gone, then you can still go back to your events, go back to your activities, and also continue doing what you've been doing to be sustainable. So then you can be assured it will become much better after that. It will grow better. So the couple of associations have done this, and we went back to really look at especially the products which we are giving to our members, especially training programs, which now can be done virtually via Zoom and all other media or whatever channels. So now we have associations who are now actually conducting trainings which they never used to do. They have improved it drastically in Africa, and they're still able to generate some little income. We now have associations thinking collaboratively, because we realize if we do it ourselves, if I go alone, I cannot offer, but we're trying to come together and work as a group in a collaborative way, and we're becoming much more stronger, because the association I used to think was a competitor, now they're an ally, because they can offer something into the table that perhaps my association doesn't offer. And I can also offer something onto their table that they were not able to offer. So we are now thinking alike. We're now trying to separate those things which separated us, which made us look like competitors. Now we basically use what we call competition, mutual collaboration and mutual working together for the benefit of the organizations. Because at the end of the day, it's not me as somebody who works in the association. It's not that particular somebody. It's not an organization. It's our members, because we have members who sometimes don't see us as separate entities, but see us as people who can work together.
It's really, I mean, I think what you're really describing is the power of association, bringing people together to be more impactful through their unity instead of being divided, going in all different directions. It's really, I mean, I'm an association nerd. I get chills when you talk about stuff like that. You know, that's really what we're all about in associations of different shapes and sizes. I'm interested to know how you're helping the associations. Are you giving them tools or helping them think about sustainability in their own activities, like you said, virtual events and things like that? Or are you helping them define sustainability and social purpose for their membership?
It depends on what an association which has approached as they want to achieve. You know, as you said, we are all in different sizes and shades. So some associations have been there for long and they're a bit more stable. Some are basically budding associations. They basically are starting and they want to be assisted. So depending on what they put on the table is basically what we do. But I can rightfully say that we're all round, and we like calling it 360 degrees, you know, all rounded, like 360, for us to understand what these associations want, and also be able to see if we can help them advance that which they want. And, you know, building, you know, enhancing job skills. You know, associations are there to help the members enhance job skills. But one thing associations sometimes tend to forget, and I've seen it quite often here in Africa, is that when you try to ensure that your members are enhancing their job skills, we forget that you, as an association executive, you're not supposed to advance your own job skill. So that is why we get a lot of support from associations which have been there for long, like the American Society of Association Executives, which has been able to really help us.
No, you're right. I think we forget to kind of take care of ourselves first so we can be healthy and strong, you know, to take care of others around us. You know, coming from the agricultural economist's perspective, I mean, that's your first passion and really your area of expertise. And I know that speaks to the global issue of poverty. How have you been able to focus on the cause of global poverty in your current role and helping those associations in Africa address that?
Thanks so much. That's an interesting question. And, you know, before I talk about poverty, I like looking at myself as an example of somebody who really grew up in poverty. And let me give a small quick story. You know, I was born in 1978, you know, that's about 43 years old, almost 42 years now, 43. And I wasn't born in any family which had anything. I was born into really African village where like poverty was everything that existed. My father got married, and this is interesting. I've never told anybody this. My father got married at the age of 16. And my mother was married at the age of 14. You know, so those are two little kids, you know, literally two little kids who got married. Why? Because my mother's parents couldn't take her to school. Literally, they were born during the colonial time. So there were no schools, there were no formal education. So when you basically become like a little teenager, you really want to see, to probably do something. So she got married at the age of 14. And I come from a family, my dad was a polygamist, you know, he had 2 wives, you know. So my dad, from my side, my mom had 11 children, you know, 11 children. And my stepmom had 6 children. So that makes us 17, you know, it's quite interesting. So you could imagine that as growing up, all these little kids, and unfortunately, which was quite unfortunate, my dad died when I was 2 years old, and my stepmother died before I was born.
Wow.
So
Right.
my mom, now who is now 75 years old, my mom was the one who was taking care of 17 kids, 17 little kids in a village, in an African village, which didn't have electricity, which didn't have running water, which didn't have good housing, which didn't have access to education. So you can only imagine what that means. So it was survival, but you know what? Sometimes we look back and realize that our parents were actually very strong, they instilled discipline in us. And my mom, who is now 75 and living, she always could go and do the small household chores. Like she could probably go and do some little chore for a small wage, and then everything else is history. So let's fast forward. Here I am, a 43-year-old gentleman, married with 3 children,
Wow.
and who lives in a nice home.
Only 3 kids. You got a ways to go, buddy. Only 3. What's
So one thing we've done is that we made sure that our mom lives a better life than she actually even thought about. Right now, I was in my village last week, and Isabel is aware of that, when I went to bury my nephew who had passed away. So my mom lives in a well-built stone house. She has electricity, she has access to water, she has a cell phone, all those things. My mom is able to enjoy that. So we come from it. But one thing I can tell you, that poverty in Africa is still very rampant. In agriculture, we talk a lot about food security. We talk a lot about sustainability. We talk a lot about, there's so many things, making sure that people have food on the table every day. So we try to work a lot on that to make sure that these things are there. And in a population of 1.21 billion people in Africa, where almost 800 do not actually have access to electricity, 800 million don't have access to electricity, 500 million Africans don't have access to clean water, and almost the same number of people don't really survive with almost $1.9 per day. That is really extreme poverty. That's what we experience in Africa. But you know what? It's not all lost. We have come of age. We are now really globalized. We now know what is happening. We now know what we can do to our communities. And we are making sure that our generations, especially my kids, live a better life than they found it with me, and that they can also grow their communities as we continue to grow. Now, education in Kenya, there is 70% education literacy level in Kenya alone, 70%, which is really fantastic. And in some African countries, especially in the Arab North, you have countries like Algeria, which has literacy level up to around 95%. If you go to South Africa, the literacy level is about 85%. So you can imagine, when I'm 75-year-old like my mom, the literacy level could probably be 100%. And that is really the first thing towards eliminating poverty in Africa. And we know that globally, everybody now wants to make sure that they shine a spotlight on areas which need that help, so that we can actually, all of us, grow out of this poverty. And the SDG, end of poverty #1 SDG, is really basically refers to mostly Africa and also other countries who are developing all emerging economies.
Is that an initiative of the African Society of Association Executives, or is that something that your agricultural economists group has spearheaded? Where does that live, that Ending Poverty for All initiative?
We are lucky to work with the African Development Bank in this case. Mm-hmm. And the African Development Bank has what we call the high 5 priority areas, where poverty eradication is one of the key areas they are concentrating on, to make sure that Africans, in wherever they are, from north to south, from west to east, they are able to actually have access to education, have access to electricity, and also they have access to all those basic human needs. So the African Society of Association Executives is also involved in that, as well as the African Association of Agriculture Economics is as well involved in that. So, and everywhere I speak as an association executive, I'd say that, you know, associations are about bringing and advancing, bringing people together and advancing what we really stand for, advancing our goals, advancing our mission, advancing our vision, and making sure that we shine. So there is no association in Africa which hasn't really thought over the issue of poverty eradication, because that is how any development can be attained or achieved in what we're doing.
How much engagement do associations have with external sort of, I mean, you mentioned the African Development Bank, but what about things like World Bank and Gates Foundation and Wellcome Trust, Carnegie, etc.? Do they focus their efforts on, you know, financially supporting associations, or are they still heavily focused on the kind of the research environment as opposed to the association and vocational environment?
The African Development Bank has a department of the civil society organizations where associations fall into, and there is a lot of support. It has actually a department of civil society organizations where associations and other non-profit organizations fall into, and we go there to actually deliberate on what we want to happen, to give our ideas, and also to get support, especially on those projects which align with what they want to see. What I've seen with from the World Bank is it's more aligned to working with governments and from governments to government, but they come in through certain departments or certain programs where civil society organizations can come in. But we have the African Union, which is also has a department of civil society organizations, where the African Society of Association Executives and the African Association of Agriculture Economics have observer status. We actually have participation during the meetings to listen to what they say and what we can actually contribute towards what they want. So the observer status is really important. Coming to the American foundations like the Gates Foundation, I can be very honest to tell you that the Gates Foundation is one of those philanthropic organizations that we work with directly in many areas, because, you know, they're out on the ground, much more on the ground of these organizations. And they have really fantastic and great programs which which listen and try to help us advance our goals. So I can tell you that all these multilateral organizations are working with us on all areas to ensure that we can work together, because for them, they can't do it alone. They have to get people on the local support to help them to achieve also what they want to achieve. So I can tell you that these are all our partners. Not some not directly, but we actually benefit from what they're also able to offer through other organizations where we are affiliated with.
I love that they're called civil society associations. And, you know, I know in the UK, the nonprofit community is really community interest companies. And it makes it so clear that these organizations are intended to make the world a better place, to make the community they're in a better place. You know, here our nonprofits are tied to your tax status. It doesn't sound as aspirational or a well-intentioned, but there has to be, you know, we talked about 400,000 associations in Africa, and I'm guessing there are a certain percentage of those that are dedicated to poverty and social purpose and responsibility, and, you know, all of these goals and initiatives we're talking about. But there has to be quite a few that, you know, like your own, like the agricultural economists, that have their own niche, that are busy advancing other missions. Is the opportunity to help give those other organizations that are working in a different space kind of an easy template to help be a part of these battles against poverty, against inequality, against, you know, climate change, or how do you help them? You know, if you're a doctors association, if you are a real estate association, are you giving those organizations tools to be a part of these larger conversations?
Thanks. I can actually only summarize your observation with a very quick response, which I think will help us to, for us to understand. We have a very easy mantra that we use, and sometimes it's like a hashtag called stronger together, a hashtag stronger together. So we are not leaving anybody behind, and we truly don't think that anybody should be left behind. We also come from the school of thought that if you want to go further, you have to go, you have to be men of you have to have a united voice than actually when you do it alone. So we try to make sure that any association, any non-government organization, any non-profit organization working in Africa, and even our friends from outside Africa. We have friends from the UK, we have friends from Germany, we have friends from Netherlands, we have friends from Belgium, we have friends from Canada, we have friends from US itself, who come and try to support us. We say we can only actually realize what we want if we all go in this together. And you don't have to be all of you going the same way, but when you realize this organization is dealing with this and you're also dealing with this, we know that is basically helping us to work stronger together.
I love it. Hashtag stronger together. I love it. I mean, that could be so many of our hashtags, and hopefully becomes that hashtag. It's
what I was going to say is certainly something that I want to see the Institute of Association Leadership really embrace, and I think it is. And I want to, in the next 12 months, I really want to explore. No, I don't want to explore. I want to get stuff done. I don't want to keep exploring stuff. We know there's opportunity. We know there's willingness to collaborate. We know that there are things we can do together. Let's stop exploring what those ideas are and let's actually start doing some of those things together. So I personally really want to take the opportunity to use this pod as a launch pad for a much bigger conversation with Jeffers and his colleagues, not just in the African Society of Association Execs, but broader than that community even. I think the scope to collaborate in a really meaningful way. I think actually, it's really, it is helpful. I think, I've reflected on what you were saying about COVID has sort of, for want of another, sort of eradicated our typical opportunities to rock up to each other's conferences and maybe contribute, in sharing ideas in those environments, and actually is forcing us to think about how we do things differently. And I certainly I'm going to, Jeff, as I'm putting you on notice, we're going to do some good stuff together, and we're going to do it really soon, but really soon. I just want to take the opportunity. We're going to wrap up now, but I think there's many, many more conversations that we're going to have, and hopefully on this podcast. So, go on, Lise, go on. You're going to interrupt before I finish.
The Institute of Association Leadership and our commitment to collaborate is one thing, but I wonder for people listening and associations that recognize that this is a special time in history and in the world to do something and to contribute to something larger than themselves. How would, where should they go? Where can they get more information and decide to get, stronger together? Where should we send them?
I think the first point of entry is through me, so that I will mobilize my people and make sure that we have people who are willing to work with us. So the first entry through me I can be reached out on my email, which probably you have, on my Twitter, Jeffers Miruka, and also on my LinkedIn. We can continue this conversation and then we can identify those areas specifically that we want, so that I can bring on board all those people, because still, even if I make a reference to somebody who probably doesn't know you, they're like, oh, who is this? So if it comes from me, and because I serve the associations in Africa, it becomes much more easier for us to advance this and move together and be able to collaborate and do something together. Yeah.
Well, get ready for a tidal wave. I mean, all 14 of our listeners are going to contact you It's going to be a tidal wave of activity.
Hang on, no. Sure. Jeffers is one of those listeners, so we're already down to 13, right?
Plus my dad. Okay, we're down to 12. But we'll be sure to put Jeffers' contact information and the appropriate links into the notes, the listening notes from this pod. Jeffers, I just want to thank you. You're so impressive. Your story is so important, and I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for the time, and really it's a great opportunity, and probably this conversation should continue going on. We have great minds in Africa who probably can do much better than you. So I'm really ready and willing to make sure that there is that connection and we can continue working together, as I've just said.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you, Jeffers. And we hope listeners will join us next time, and indeed every time that we're on the pod, all 14 of you. We hope that you'll listen, and we hope that you've enjoyed this week's pod. And if there's a subject you want us to explore, if you want to join us on the pod, tweet us at Association Transformation, or you can email us hello@yourconsort.com, and we will draw on our network to pull together a pod that is worth listening to. And if you've enjoyed listening to our musings today, then from wherever you access your pods, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, we are on all the platforms. You can find us at Association Transformation, add us to your favorites, and then you'll never miss an episode. But until next time, stay well and put your members and your mission first. Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.